Hi, do you know what today's thought? I've wondered for years and years and years and years what it would take for Israel finally to get serious about dealing with Hamas. Now we know the events of the past 4 days. You're all familiar with them. I don't have to describe them. I'm recording this the day before you're seeing this, so for you, this will be 5 days later. And as far as I would assume that the bombing of Gaza is going on, still going on. Meanwhile, Israelis are assembling 300,000 soldiers to go into Gaza and clean out this rat's nest. Now, there are people that may be want the satisfaction of seeing them go in right away. Israelis are not stupid. First of all, this was a surprise attack by Hamas. So to just go, well, that's what happened actually in the Lebanon war of 2006. They had a left-wing, incompetent government when Lebanon attacked Israel, and when the 2006 Lebanon war, and they just started bombing and firing artillery into Lebanon, and they only sent in 19,000 soldiers. Now that's their mistake. Well, you see now they're assembling 300,000. Israel has a very large army, but they did not want to. Well, it's a problem that they've had, that they're reluctant to send in ground troops because of the number of Israeli soldiers who would die in a ground assault. And they shouldn't. At that time, Hezbollah had about 15,000 missiles, I think. Now they have 150,000 because they didn't want to deal with it now. And they were making the same mistake in Gaza by just the occasional rocket barrage, and the Israelis with what they called mowing the lawn. They would go in and attack and have peace for a few years, and then Hamas would come back stronger than before. And now what they've done now, the death toll of Israelis is now over 1,000. I can't even look. I haven't looked at any of the photos of the atrocities. They're on the internet. I just can't even look at them. Beheading of babies. One kibbutz, 40 babies killed, babies. And Israel is going to deal with this once and for all. 300,000 troops, and something that the Israelis, I'm sure they're not talking. Hamas wants to, they said they're willing to discuss a truce now because they have, quote unquote, achieved their goals, killing innocent women and children, old people. They're ready to discuss a truce and prisoner exchanges and all that business. And the Israelis this time are not listening, and that's very important because there's something you have to understand. I'm one of these people that I don't know what it is with our political figures here. You're dealing with these jihadists, and they never apparently take time to look at a Quran, because these guys are jihadists. They're guided by the Quran. They're religious fanatics. They're not like the enlightened Arabs of Muslims of Bahrain and the Emirates, who signed on to the peace accords, who they're not bound to what is in the Quran, but these people are. And you have to understand, if you've read the Quran, that there was a tribe, the Quraysh, they were called a Jewish tribe in Muhammad's time, and the Muslims were besieging the Quraysh, and they couldn't defeat them. So they agreed to a 10-year truce. But they broke it 2 years later when they were strong enough to defeat the Quraysh, and they beheaded all the men, by the way, and carried the women and children off into slavery. So the point is that's in the Quran. There's command in the Quran. I've read the Quran. If I didn't mention that before, I've read the Quran, and they're guided by this battle against the Quraysh, that the Muslims, if you stay strictly to the Quran, they're instructed never to agree to a truce if they are winning. If they are ahead, they are not to agree to a truce. They're supposed to convert everybody to Islam and kill anybody who won't to be converted, except for Jews and Christians who are people of the book, and they're allowed to live, but they have to basically live as second-class citizens, pay a special tax called the jizya. I don't want to go off on a tangent, as I often do. So the point is that if Hamas is saying that they're willing to discuss a truce, that means they're losing. They wouldn't do it if they were winning, or even if they were holding their own. They know they're losing, and that's why they're willing to discuss a truce. Israel should not only should they not listen, they should press their advantage. They're winning. They know now that they're winning, and Hamas knows what's in store for them. 300,000 troops on the border, plus all this bombing that's been going on for 4 days, and probably going on, as you're watching this, a day later, and will probably go on a bit more, because the Israelis, there are some people, you get angry and you want the Israelis to just rush in there and just kill everybody, members of Hamas, not the civilians. And they, though I don't have any pity for to be honest, the civilians who pass out candy and dance in the street every time a Jew gets killed. Sorry if that makes me heartless, but I would feel sorry for their children who don't know any better. But the point I'm making is that the Israelis are planning. They've sealed their border now. Maybe one or two terrorists will sneak over the border, and the Israelis take them out just almost immediately. They're doing house-to-house searches in case there are any terrorists still left in Israel. But basically, they have time now. They have to deal with the missiles that are still coming in, but Hamas has only a certain amount of missiles, and that I'm sure those are the missile launching sites and production facilities. Those are probably the primary targets for the Israeli Air Force. The point is that the Israelis, even with 300,000 soldiers, they know what's in store. They have despite getting caught by surprise for this, they have pretty good intelligence of where the tunnels are and where everything is located. So they are planning an assault, not rushing in. They're going to plan. In the meantime, let the bombing go on. That's the modern military tactic, is to soften the enemy from the air if you have air superiority, which the Israelis do, and then hit every target on your list. And after you've hit all the targets and reduced all those areas to rubble, then send in the troops. I think that's what's going to happen. So what I'm going to do now is just read you a couple headlines from the Times of Israel. That's an English language Israeli paper, or a Hebrew language Israeli paper with an English edition. So I'm going to read a couple of headlines. I usually link to articles. I'm not going to link to the articles this time because they're so short. The first one I'm going to read you just a couple paragraphs, and it's the whole article. The other one is about like 6 paragraphs, and they don't deal directly with the issue. So I just give you the 3 paragraphs that matter, and you're going to see how serious they are. So here's the first headline: Egyptian official. Israel telling us it's readying for months-long ground campaign. Israel is readying for a months-long ground campaign in Gaza, an Egyptian official tells the Times of Israel, saying that this message has been passed along from Jerusalem to Cairo. The Egyptian official says Israel has thus far dismissed, this is the important, has thus far dismissed Cairo's efforts to mediate any sort of de-escalation, indicating that it wants to deal a knockout blow to Hamas before entering the idea of a ceasefire. And I think that part is wrong too. Well, they says they're indicating, they're not they're not saying definitely that this is what they'll do. But my impression is that they're going to completely destroy Hamas's military capabilities, kill all the... Well, let's go on to the second headline here, okay? IDF, that's Israel Defense Forces, a spokesman says killing senior Hamas members is a top priority. The IDF's top spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, says killing senior Hamas members is a top priority. We will not stop the effort to eliminate senior Hamas officials. This is a top priority, Hagari says in a press conference after Israeli strikes killed 2 senior Hamas members last night. So they've already killed 2. The directive to the forces is clear: find terrorists and destroy them, Hagari says. So that's obvious what they're going to do. They're going to kill everybody in Hamas, and then they'll discuss a ceasefire with whoever's left. Maybe there'll be a couple people left. I would go for an unconditional surrender, because this is the problem that they've had in the past. They launch these enormous attacks, the Israelis do, or retaliatory strikes, and then because they haven't killed everybody, whoever's left claims it as a victory, that they stood up to the mighty, Israeli army, and they're still standing. They claim it as a victory. So ideally, you want a signed instrument of surrender, like the Japanese and the Germany and Germans signed in World War II. So they cannot deny that they lost. They can't claim a victory. So that would either that or kill them all. So there's nobody left to sign. But they've already killed, eliminated 2 members of the senior leadership, and they're going to go after everybody until they're dead. And I don't believe that means just in Gaza, because you have to remember if it was probably before the time of many of you who are watching this, maybe most, but I'm old enough to remember the 1972 Munich Olympics, where terrorists invaded the Israeli dormitory of the athletes, killed several, held others hostages, were given free passage out of Germany, and they flew them, all over the world, wherever they flew them. The point is, it took a few years, but the Israelis, they hunted down every one of those terrorists. They found out who they were. They tracked them down wherever they had to go, and they killed them. They just killed them, and that brings us to Ismail Haniyeh, who is the leader of Hamas today. But he's not stupid. He's a smart leader. He doesn't live in Gaza. He's a millionaire living in luxury in Gitter. So in Gitter, and that's how you pronounce it, by the way. They say Qatar, Qatar, Qatar. But I looked it up. Somebody who actually lives there, Gitteri, and he says, how do you pronounce it? And he says, well, you pronounce it like guitar, like the instrument, a guitar, with the accent on the first syllable, Gitter. So there you go. You learned something. But the point is that the leader of Hamas is not enduring any of the suffering of his people. He's willing to, sacrifice them while he sits in comfort in Gitter. But my advice to him is not to get too comfortable there, because I can't predict, but I'm pretty sure no matter how long it takes, eventually he's going to be assassinated. The Israelis they always find a way. There was somebody else who was assassinated. The Israelis managed to assassinate in an Arab country. I forget which one. And then there was another one who I think it could have been Haniyeh himself, either him or there was one other person. But in Jordan, the Israelis poisoned him, but the Jordanians found out Israel was behind it, and there was a whole contretemps. And ultimately the Israelis they gave him the antidote, and he survived. But I would not expect that from to happen, because there's a peace. Israel has a peace treaty with Jordan. They don't have one with Gitter, and Gitter is behind Hamas and supports them even with money too. So that's my thought for today. Is just watch. The point is that the Israelis have told the Egyptians, with whom they also have they're very close contact, because Israel's at peace with Egypt, and they're, according to that headline I read you, they're planning on this for months. And you see what they've done in 4 days. You can imagine what they're going to do over several months. The Israelis are going to go in there. They're going to stay in there for months, and I would not be surprised to see them. Remember, they had occupied. They even had settlements in Gaza. They left in 2007 in the hopes that it would bring peace. I mean, in 2005 in the hopes that it would bring peace, and instead it brought Hamas to power in 2007, and everything that we know that's happened since and will happen, going forward. But I would not be surprised to see Israel reoccupy Gaza permanently, colonize it and put them Israelis in there permanently. Somebody else suggested, I guess this will be my last thought. I thought I wasn't done with my thoughts, but somebody else suggested that to create a 300 meter, which would be about 1,000 yards, or like about 350 yards. Security zone, a no man's land on the Gaza side of the border between, to create a security zone. Anybody who crosses into that zone won't get near, will be taking their lives into taking his life into his hands, and they'll be watching it, and no more of these demonstrations right up against the fence that divides the two, Israel and Gaza. So, okay, this is it for sure. This is my thought. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. Would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.